Hey y'all, it is me, Xureila, and I'm back with another video on my motherfucking channel. That just sounds like gibber jabber, but anyways, y'all know what I'm trying to say. But anyways, we back with another video. We back reacting to those horror stories. The people that did watch the video, y'all seem to love it, so we're just gonna continue to do these. These are really fun. Once we're done with, no, I don't think once we're done, I'm actually going to do another reaction series of real horror stories. Okay, so yeah, I'm excited for that. I should record that after this. I might do that, but I'm scared because they're real. But I'm scared. I was gonna do this at night, but I really wanted to get a video out early today, so I'm just gonna do this today, and then the next one will be at night, and I'm gonna be scared, y'all. Y'all gonna see it's gonna be dark outside, and we just gonna try to survive together, okay? But anyways, we're going to go ahead and start and get right into the video. All right. It don't sound too good
when I was
already.
15 years old. My best friend Anthony wanted me to come over for the night since his parents would be gone all weekend. I rode my bike over and put it in his backyard before letting myself in through his back door. We played basically every video game he had, from FIFA all the way to Call of Duty, with popcorn and other junk food spilled out all over the floor.
Yeah, man.
As the night progressed, we moved from video games to watching half a movie and getting bored, to doing prank calls at close to 10 o'clock.
This is me and D.
Anthony made a few calls to different pizza places. When it was my turn, I just dialed a few random numbers in hopes to get someone at their house. On, say, my fourth attempt, I finally reached somebody. A guy with a deep and rough voice picked up, answering with a yeah instead of a hello. Anthony's laughing in the background made me stumble with my words mid-sentence, ultimately cracking up into laughter. I had never done a prank call, so I sucked at it. The guy on the other end was silent. I regained a straight face and tried to continue with the call. It went something like this. Sir, would it be alright if I borrowed one of the wheels from your car? What's your name, kid? My name is Bob. Really? You sure it's not Anthony?
He got you.
It hit me like a brick. I looked up at Anthony, whose face was noticeably full of fear. I hung up the phone, not wanting to be on the line with whoever that was for another second. Anthony, who the hell was that? I asked him. I don't know, he told me.
So random.
Does your caller ID info display your name or something?
Oh.
No, it shows my dad's name. We hopped on the computer and did some research, trying to figure out how it was possible to get someone's name through their phone number. It didn't make sense how he could get Anthony's name so quickly. He was way too young at the time to be on any of those personal information sharing websites. We ended up asking a question on Yahoo Answers, since no one had a similar experience. The question turned up no answers. I suggested he call his dad, but he said he wasn't supposed to have anybody over for the weekend, so he didn't want to call. We planned on sleeping in the living room, so we just resumed watching the movie that we hadn't finished from earlier. Right after the phone call had left my mind, me and Anthony looked at each other when we heard his front storm door opening, and then the doorknob to the front door began to turn. It only was able to turn about halfway before the lock restricted it.
Throw that couch in front of the couch.
Anthony turned off the TV, and I went over to the window
in front of the couch. Throw that couch in front of that door
to see who it was.
Here we go with the big
spread the blinds open. There was a tall guy standing outside.
What the hell?
He noticed the blinds moving and turned to look at me. Ooh. I practically threw the blinds back into place. Me and Anthony hid in the kitchen, listening for any more noises.
Grab a knife,
We heard the sound of the gate to the backyard opening, as it was right.
The knife's just right here, and y'all ain't got nothing in your hand.
Outside the kitchen window.
Oh my God.
God damn it, I said. I forgot to shut the back door. Anthony urged me to run and shut it. I made it to the hallway leading to his back door.
How you forget to shut the back door?
There was a silhouette standing outside the back door. I don't think he noticed me, but
you finna die today.
Into the house. He opened the door and stepped inside. I tiptoed to the kitchen and motioned for Anthony to follow me upstairs. We made it to his room as quietly as possible, pulling the door shut to avoid making any noise.
Okay.
We crawled under his bed. He had cloth covering the bottom of his bed, so you couldn't see anything under it unless you actually moved the cloth.
He gonna move that cloth, best
The doors
believe.
downstairs all opened, each one getting closer to the stairs. Thumps finally began up the stairs, and he was
That's
right
when I
outside
just
the
know
door
that
now.
I'm dead.
The door to the room opened.
He know y'all in there, dummies.
I could hear Anthony's breathing. It was
Y'all
too
should have
loud.
that a window.
Footsteps moved over to the closet, and then the closet opened. I could hear the coat hangers being slid around as the fabric of the jackets and coats rubbed against each other. Footsteps moved over to the bed and stopped. I felt like my heart was about to explode out of my chest. Anthony's breathing was too loud. I had to cover his mouth with my hand. Nothing but silence in the room now. We laid still for so long, I almost thought he wasn't even in the room anymore.
He there. Oh,
I moved my hand away from Anthony's mouth and whispered in his ear,
Oh my God.
"You think we can make a run for it?"
Loud ass. He was like, you think we gonna make a run for it? I know he was loud. The thing. That man still right there in front of that bed.
He was about to answer when the most disturbing, memory-haunting scream I'd ever heard filled my ears as Anthony was seemingly dragged out from under the bed.
Oh shit.
I crawled out and saw him struggling with the man. I
Bop him from
desperately
the back
looked
of the
around
head.
for anything to use as a weapon. I settled with the
Dummy,
screwdriver sitting on his nightstand.
Okay, the screwdriver will work. That don't look like no damn screwdriver. I would have grabbed the lamp and said, "Bop." That's oh my God.
And
That's all you
I
gotta
hurried
do.
over to the man and drove the
Stab him.
screwdriver into his back. He let go of Anthony as he let out a scream of agony, giving us time to get the hell out of the house. Running onto the road would give away our position too easily. It would take too long to make it to his neighbor's house. We dove for the tree line in the woods and took cover behind a bush, watching the house.
Snakes and stuff.
The back door opened as the man stepped outside, looking around the backyard. He then looked out to the woods. I felt his eyes pass me as he scanned through the tree line. It seemed that it was too dark for him to see us. Then, he turned his head back in our direction. I ducked behind the bush.
Oh my gosh.
"Joe, he's coming." "What?" "Dude, get up, we gotta run." He was right. The man was approaching us fast. How could he have seen us? We ran through the woods with the leaves crunching under us, giving away our position. When Anthony tripped over something, I crouched down with him,
Of course.
hoping we had run far enough. Not
That'd
even
be
20
me, though.
seconds later,
Y'all, I be getting so mad. I'm sorry, I'm pausing now. I'm talking too much. One of y'all commented, y'all said, "Xureila, you too loud." But anyways, y'all, I hate when people be tripping in the movies. They just be falling over everything, falling over air. Like, how you trip over air? Like, but that'll be me. Like, for real, I'm so clumsy. I be talking about people, but I know that'll be me. Y'all, if we ever get in a situation where we together and then something like this happen and I fall and trip, just save your own life, okay?
oncoming footsteps from the direction we were running from came fast. They slowed down only 2 trees away from us as we lay face down in the leaves. Moments later, the footsteps take off in another direction.
Good.
We waited until we could no longer hear them and took off back in the direction of the house. While running, over the sound of leaves crushing and my heavy breathing, I could swear I heard leaves crushing from behind us. We made it back to his backyard, into his house,
Lord.
and this time remembering to shut the back door.
And lock it.
We were now able to call the police. Anthony stayed on the line with them, while I patrolled the back windows, making sure nobody was out there.
Oh, you ain't got no curtains.
It was so dark though, I couldn't see anything. So I did something that seems stupid today. I turned on his backyard lights, and immediately in the distance, over by the woods,
Big
I saw him, standing in front of a big tree. He turned off back into the woods and disappeared out of sight. That was the last time me or Anthony ever saw him. I would be lying if I told you we heard the occasional knocks at our windows or something cliche. No, that was it. 5 years have passed and nothing has...
5 years? You still going up? You still going over his house? I'm sorry, I don't care if you're my best friend. But that'll be the last time I go to your house. I'm sorry. You could come to my house. I won't be going back to your house. You live in the middle of nowhere. And that happened and y'all still... No.
It's happened.
Couldn't be me.
Do I wonder if it was somehow linked to the prank call? Maybe.
It was.
Does it make sense? Not really.
Not at all.
But yeah, this was the story of how me and my still best friend Anthony almost died during a break-in.
Y'all did almost die. Y'all was done. The honeymoon. Ooh.
Me and my wife were on our honeymoon in Hawaii. We were on the island of Oahu, sitting on the beach. My wife got up to go to the bathroom, and when she got back, she told me that there was a creepy man watching her walk into the bathroom, and when she tried to walk out, he blocked her path. She only got away because there were 2 other people walking into the bathroom, so he got out of the way. I asked her what the man looked like, and she looked over.
I would have been like, bitch, is you blind? No.
But unfortunately, she said he was gone. Our hotel was walking distance from the beach, so we got back quickly, but we made sure to report the man to a police officer we saw walking on the beach, and then we washed up before going out to eat. We ate at a fancy seafood place and did some walking around afterwards. We ate at a fancy seafood place and did some walking around afterwards. Close to midnight, we finally went back to the room and began to wind down. Then we got a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole of the door and saw a man in a maid uniform standing outside. I opened the door and he immediately tried to let himself in. I pushed him back a bit, asking him what he wanted.
Break his arm.
He told me he left something in the room while cleaning earlier and needed to get it out.
Hell no.
The only thing, we left the do not disturb sign on the door all day. Then I noticed he was making eye contact with my wife. My wife then screamed, "That's the man."
That is it?
I didn't understand at first, but it was too late for that. The man had already lunged at me, holding my...
See, I don't have time for this. See, y'all be doing some dumb stuff. Like, okay, first of all, I'm not going to answer no to the crazy looking man. And if I got the do not disturb sign outside my door, then that mean do not disturb. I don't care if you were made or nothing. I'm not going to answer the door. Me and my wife was about to get freaky and you interrupted us. Second of all, he put his head out the door in his hand. You should have been slammed that door like boom. And then his head was there. And then I don't know what would happen after that.
My throat with one hand, reaching behind himself with another. He pulled out a knife and started swinging at me.
Oh my God.
And if it weren't for my wife coming over and smashing his face with the lamp, I would have been as good as dead.
How the hell?
Commotion drew out all the inhabitants of the neighboring rooms.
Look at Courage the Cavity, the grandma from Courage. Wait, I know what I'm talking about. Courage, the cowardly dog, and the grandma. What's she doing out at the beach? I'm dead. Okay, anyways.
One of the women started freaking out and screaming, making the situation worse. We called the police, and so did the hotel. It turned into a huge, horrible scene, but we were just happy to be alive.
Yeah.
We were questioned when the police arrived, and some of the other people around us claimed to have witnessed it all. We still don't know what kind of intentions this guy had, but if I had to guess, I would say he wanted to get to my wife.
Yeah.
He must have been one very dumb person to think he would get away with something like this in such a public building.
Y'all let him live? Boy. My man would have started stabbing his whole body. I would have too, shoot. Late night delivery. See, this is why y'all don't be no pizza delivery. Don't deliver nothing.
I'll never forget this night. The pizza place I worked at was about to close, and I was getting ready to go home when the phone rang. I was working the counter alone that night, so I was taking calls. I picked up the phone. There was complete silence, so I hung up.
Good.
About a minute later, the phone rings again, so I pick up again. Still silence. I was about to hang up again when I heard the very weak and cold voice of an old woman on the other end. She said she wanted a regular pie delivered. I remained...
Can I get a regular pie delivery, please? I'd be like, no, ma'am, we about to close. And then I would have left.
the phone, but on the inside I was screaming. I just wanted to get home and end my shift. I called out to my boss that somebody is requesting a delivery. He told me I had to go. I was upset at first, but I realized it's another tip, and the old ones usually tip the most, so I decided it was okay.
Hell no, I would say
I took down the address and told her it would be there soon, but she had already hung up.
1, 2, 3, 4,
I thought that was rude, but I ignored it and yelled to the chef that I needed one regular. My boss told me to just go home after the delivery as the place would be closed. So a little before 10 o'clock, I got in my car and put the address into my GPS. The house was 7 miles away. The GPS took me to the quiet side of town. I arrived to the house. It was a small, one-floor house on a very quiet and empty block. I took the pizza and walked up to the door and rang the doorbell. There were no lights on in the house. I hoped that she hadn't given me the wrong address.
That's her right there.
I rang the doorbell again. There was still no answer.
I don't know why I be pointing like y'all can see what I'm pointing at. But that's her right there, right?
Sir. I was about to give up when I turned my head and saw somebody standing at the window. I got a little freaked out and backed up at first, but I eventually got closer to the window to see the person. It was an old woman, probably in her late 70s. She was just staring at me with a blank expression. I yelled to her through the glass that I had her pizza. She didn't react to what I said, so I screamed it louder. A big smile ran across her face. Not a pleasant, genuine smile. It was a smile that sent chills down my spine.
That's when I would have started running.
I still remember that exact face she made through the window. I decided that I was freaked out enough and got back to my car and set the pizza in the passenger seat. I had to text my boss about this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I shot him a quick text and started my car, ready to get the hell away. I looked to my right to get one more look, to see the woman standing right outside my passenger side window, giving me the same stare she had given me before.
Drive!
I put my car in drive and floored it down the street, not looking back. My boss never made me do a late night delivery again.
Good. That's hilarious. Was that the whole story? That was funny as ever. That's scary too. Oh my gosh. Man, I wonder if real life pizza delivery people and people who deliver it have went through anything like this. Like they deliver something to like a abandoned looking house, like out in the woods and stuff. And then I wonder if people was acting creepy. I don't know. I just couldn't be no delivery person. You just, no. Trick or treat.
It was Halloween night of 2007, freshman year in high school, and I was with my friends, Ivan, Ryan, and Jesse. We were all dressed as the Super Mario characters. I was Luigi since I was the second tallest. Ivan was Mario since he's short and buff. Not that Mario is buff. Jesse was Waluigi because he's freakishly tall and skinny, and Ryan was Wario because he's just really fat. So they were the perfect group costumes for us. We live in a very non-congested suburban neighborhood with a decent amount of space in between houses. On Halloween, that's the worst thing ever. Less bang for your buck. We were trick-or-treating for hours, way past dark, and eventually came the time when most trick-or-treaters were heading home. My feet started to hurt, and I had to constantly switch arms for holding the now 10-pound pillow sack of candy, but we planned on going until our bags were completely full. A lot of the houses by now weren't answering anymore. It was probably past their cutoff time for giving candy to trick-or-treaters. Approaching our next house, we saw a purple bucket on the stoop, which was the best feeling ever. I was the one to get close enough to realize it was empty, which was the worst feeling ever. I turned around when I heard a knock at the window of the house.
Oh, hell no.
We all looked at the window. Couldn't see anyone, but...
Somebody knocked on the window, they gonna say, come here. No! How you gonna knock on your own window and tell me to come? No.
Heard someone call out, wait.
Shoot.
The door opened and an older man, late 40s, already balding, stepped outside. He told us to come inside so he can get us some more candy.
No!
I said we could just wait out here. He responded saying something along the lines of, "Nonsense, come on in, we'll get you your candy."
No.
Ivan stepped in and said, "It's alright. Come on, Dan, let's go." I told the guy to take care and apologized. He just stood there watching as we walked off, not saying anything.
No,
I felt bad, but at the same time, that guy seemed like a creeper, and I
Why you
figured
feel
I just
bad?
dodged a bullet not going in there. If the story ended there, it wouldn't be scary, so of course, it didn't end there. We skipped a few of the guy's neighboring houses just to get further away and continued on with our business. We were walking down close to the nature preserve now, so there weren't many houses around us. At this point, we were now walking back closer to Jesse's house. I noticed Ryan had stopped walking, and I turned around to see what's up. He said he heard someone moving from behind the trees in the preserve. Now this was before everyone's phones had flashlights, so we couldn't just go searching in the woods for someone.
That means run.
Besides, we were just telling Ryan that it must have been a raccoon or something. You may think this is a bit of a cliche, but when things like this happen in real life, you always assume the more logical possibility. It's just natural. Why would we assume we were being followed? I had to put my arm around Ryan's shoulder and nudge him forward. A little ways down the street, me and Ivan picked up on the sound as well. When we all stopped, the sounds of the footsteps from beyond the trees stopped as well. Ivan yelled at the obvious stalker to go away, or we would beat the shit out of them.
Go home.
I knew he was just bluffing though. I could hear the nervousness in his voice. The snap of a twig from beyond the trees triggered a fight or flight response in all of us. Me, Jesse, and Ryan all ran for it. Ivan was at first charging to attack, but he quickly followed after realizing we had all taken off. We ran down the dark street, and we all noticed the sounds of at least 2 or 3 pairs of footsteps crushing the twigs and leaves in the woods.
That's my belly.
We banked it hard right down Jesse Street when it finally came up, and ran straight for his backyard, entering his house through the back door. The first thing we did was peek out through his living room window. We couldn't see anyone. We all had to gather our thoughts and discuss what the hell just went down in his living room, when all of a sudden we heard Jesse's backyard gate slam shut. Jesse dove to turn off the lights. There was a click and a bang from down in the den. It was more than likely Jesse's back door. We all agreed to go down armed with knives and face them. Jesse turned on his back door light, but there was nobody out there. Just then the front door opened, and we all screamed like animals. Jesse's mom and sisters came rushing downstairs. They had just gotten home from their friend's little house party. We all rested assured knowing it was just them. Jesse explained what happened, but made it seem a lot less dramatic. Me and Ivan went home after that and called it a night. At 12:30 a.m., I got a disturbing text message. It was from Jesse. It said, "It wasn't my mom." I texted back saying, "What?" He responded back quickly, saying, "It wasn't my mom in the backyard." My fingers slammed the buttons on my phone, responding back, "What do you mean?"
You know what he means.
There was a long pause before he finally told me that his mom and sisters said they never went in the backyard. I told him to immediately check the backyard from his upper deck. He had already done just that. He also told his mom everything, and she had already called the police. They didn't find anyone back there, but Jesse did mention the guy who invited us in while trick-or-treating. Nothing ever became of that, and nothing ever happened at Jesse's house again after that one Halloween night.
So this is the... What? That wasn't that scary, I guess. Hallucination.
You can see some weird things when you're tired. But the thing about this story, I wasn't tired. Me and the family were on vacation to some resort in a very rural area of Pennsylvania to make the setting creepier. There weren't many young people there for me and my brothers to hang out with. It seemed like more of an adult resort. But then one day when I was walking outside of the main lodge of the resort, I for some reason looked up to a window on the second floor and saw a teenage girl looking down at me. From that distance, she looked kinda cute, so I gave her a wave. But She didn't show any sign of reaction, so I just moved on.
He cute.
However, later that same day, I was so bored that I was sitting on the swing set at the little playground of the resort, and that's when I saw the same girl again. She was a little ways away from me down past the playground,
But
close to the tree
on.
line, and she was just standing there staring at me. Being a teenage guy, my hormones controlled my body, and so I got off the swing and began walking over to her. As I started getting closer to her, I realized she wasn't as cute as I thought she was. There was something about her face that just gave off a creepy vibe. I can't put my finger on it,
Oh yeah, she looked
but if I had to say, I think it would have to do with her eyes and her mouth. I'd say once I got about halfway over to her, she turned around completely and ran into the woods. And I mean she full on ran into the woods.
Well, don't chase her, please.
I stopped in my tracks, completely turned off. This girl seemed like a freaky stalker.
Yeah, shoot.
I didn't see her the rest of our stay at the resort. During the car ride home, miles and miles away from the resort, I was thinking about her. How maybe if I followed her into the woods, I could have gotten laid, even though there was something off about her.
If you don't get your... Did you just say she looked crazy and creepy? See, this is how niggas ain't shit. Being ain't shit now. But for real, he talking about something. I was thinking about if I would have followed her to the woods, I could have gotten laid. Boy, shut the hell up. She's gonna kill your
face. But then what I saw next made me feel like my heart dropped into my stomach.
You seen her
Looking
again?
down ahead,
You
I
still
saw
wanna
the
go
same
get laid?
girl standing by the tree line on the side of the highway. As we sped past her, I saw her head turn so that she was always looking right at me, even through the tinted minivan windows. I asked my parents if they saw her, and they just responded, "Saw who?" Soon afterwards, I accepted that it was all in my head, and that the girl was never even there.
Yes, she will. Now she gonna be at your house. That was it. That was really it. 40, 50. Okay, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop right here. Because we're gonna do one more part of this, part 3, and we're gonna finish the rest of it. But that last story wasn't that scary. These stories weren't that scary. They were funny to me. And y'all was in the comments talking about some, y'all was talking about that they were scared of you, but I made y'all laugh. So I'm glad I could do that. But anyways, y'all, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this video right here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. Let me know which story y'all thought was the scariest. Let me know what y'all would have did in the case, like what y'all would have did in them stories. But yeah, y'all, so I'm gonna see y'all in my next video. I love y'all so much, and bye.